Hey ha ya hey ya ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya 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 hey ha yo hey yo hey yo Community College, Ukiyebino, yo, yo, me too, Gashi, Dagush, Kashka, Yogi, Piano, yo, yo, Wata, Pepe, Agik, Tabi, Ichachia, Yabino, hey, yo, hey, yo. Hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ugiebino yo yo Nito Gashi Dagush Kashka Iyogi Pieno yo yo Wata Pebi Agik Tabi Ichachia Yabino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ugiebino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka iyogi pieno yo yo Wata pebi hagik tabi ichachia yabino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ugiebino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi pieno yo yo Wata pebi agik tabi ichachia yabino hey yo
Oh, Doka. Whoa. Oh,
Washelo.
oh, stay. Oh, I'm a talk up here. I can't die watch you copy door. Again, thank you, relatives, for joining us here with our weekly BC podcasting, Buffalo Chasers podcast. I want to thank actually Tommy Christian, actually Earl Bullhead for joining us again and kind of guiding our podcast in a good way. And before we get started, I want to ask actually Earl if you would we'll check ya gahapi oyaki.
Rude. Oh, mitake, ochake, wakaki.
Oh.
Atrukashi la wakantra kaleake. Apetu wakan Jakob kile. Wupila tranka chiche. I give you thank you for this day. Big thank you for this day. So hetaku ya wana le wanikia apetu. Uhiyo na pi khaila che ulila uta wakajo kithapi. Taku slelek chimbu ukicha rupcha che. Lila lila wiakole mushkamki he. Takuku washteshte yukcha bene yomakpi. Sahena kulila wopila tranka. I give you thank you for these inquisitive kids who are inquiring about how do you say all these Christmas decorations and how do you say, why do we call it this and that? So, thank you, Pirchena, Owichak Yecha, Etrokashila. I won't speak with Chasha, Hetum Hemachet, Yomakpi.
Oh.
I give you thanks for blessing me with the opportunity to teach our children so many different things about these two worlds we live in. So So ektožrešni hani etuake hena ila ija techishia wankap ke hena wana waniutik utechike. Ta kukuk ale wayatek yuha. Ta kushicha wankap ke. Hena wuchiket chagna khuna hena ukie. I ask that you hear the prayers of all our people who are going through all these natural tragedies, the flooding and storms and then it's a whole new virus and hechikche. Etaha takuka ijahe uspe icha koki. So he wopila taka chiche. We learn from all the things that we are exposed to, this experience, it's learning. So he wopila taka hecha. Atuake naku tiata ena ushni ukiki ena. Those who cannot be with their families and homes because of difficulty that we're going through, I ask you to hear the prayers and to give them some mercy. Tukashila tuake henanaku. Shicha wazakach papke hena wuchit atkog nakunana okiaye. Enakumaza tipik ta hena takuyep ke hena ija. Uchike anicha. Isanaku okana na kushi ukitcha pina tukashila uchi okana hena. Enaku lila taikul ota he. Oya ke yuhabcha he unaku etaha lata otum speucha he naku he wopila tchaka. We give thanks to the many, many elderlies for their wisdom who have taught us so many different things. So hetrokashila he wopilat hakahecha. And aku akichita okithapi hena, ijawochiket hanachona hena ukiaye. And tuake tuktel na achchi, ile chaku duta, a chaku sapa hena okachne apshne hena, ushiachche hena epa zo atashena wopilat hakahecha. So we ask that you give them the strength to see the path that many of us are on, the good and bad road. Say, oh, hena etaha ijahe wichona zi hakte shayena trukashila hena wopilak hakam Yakob. Say trukashila khate topataka hena wochike huye ukagab shahe trukashila ushechena unkokia. Trukashila ushechim kokia pie. Oh, mitaki oasi.
Oh, it's a toilet shit. Die chanum chante was still.
Oh, open actually. Beautiful prayer again. So thank you for sharing with us. And I really like hearing that the old school language, man. You guys, we really know how, man. So that was really good. So relative. So what we try to do before we kind of get into our discussion here with our podcast it's really kind of taken on a life of its own, and I know it's evolved and all this good stuff, and so but it all has to do with mental health and reaching people wherever they're at, and our virtual format isn't always the best, but it definitely has some perks, and there's a silver lining to all this usage of our technology. So I think we do the best that we can with this, and so I appreciate the adaptability of Dexy Tommy, Dexy Earl for sharing with us, because a lot of people either don't or can't or don't know how, and so these guys have really taken that big step and putting themselves to be maybe a little uncomfortable learning a new platform and putting it out there like this. Not many people doing that, so I really appreciate that, and I think our audience, whether you know it or not, that's something that's pretty cool. So please take advantage of this opportunity and just kind of dial in and listen. And so one of the ways that we also try to increase awareness, participation, and share some of our thanks and our gratitude for those of you that take the time to kind of bend your ear and look this way is we try to have a weekly drawing. And so we have some items that we want to share with all of y'all that show some love. One is a Kindle Fire tablet. We got some of those left. And so the winner of that is all those individuals that either shared, liked, comment, smashed that love button. You got your name in the hat for that weekly drawing from last week. And so there's 2 lucky individuals, and one of them is the winner of the Kindle Fire tablet. And the winner of that is Jay Brown. Winner.
Chicken
Yeah.
dinner.
You can log on to that Kindle Fire tablet. You can join the podcast right there if you want. You can watch us on the live stream, all that good stuff. So congratulations, Jay Brown. And then also we have a BC Buffalo Chasers Cho jacket. You letter in Buffalo Chasers Indian when you wear that and you earn it. So the winner of that is Carla Gutierrez. I think I got that last name right. So winner, chicken dinner. Congratulations to both of you. You can retrieve those items over here at the Wargo Vision here building here at Student Services, Fort Peck Community College. If you are not around here local, but you can retrieve those by just giving us a phone call, 406-768-6370. Give us your name and your mailing address, and we'll hook you up wherever you're at. So again, congratulations to both of you for participating. And those of you that are following us live here on the Facebook live stream, again, just show some gratitude, like, share, comment, and then you'll get your name in the hat for next week. And then we'll do this all over again. So again, thank you for following us. So Dexy Tommy, Dexy Earl, what you got for us? Is there we had a little side conversation with Dexy Tommy yesterday and Earl, and one of the cool things I thought was really cool, and these guys, man, just Ota Stodiapido, they really know lots, man. And so I always thought it was really cool to hear about the Czech boss story, how that kind of ties us to who we are. Unduepiki, I thought that was really cool. I've heard a little bit about it, so the more I hear about it, the other cool word was I learned was wakanja, and some people, the way they break those words apart, one term I heard is wakan ijaja. I don't know if it's true or not. That's just what I heard, but what do you guys think about that, Dexy?
Well, Ijaja, it's that light, that glowing, if you will, for lack of a better word. And I could relate to that because, again, Wakhan, that's that spiritual energy that just glows off of them. And so I could accept that as one of the translations, and that's one of the things of the beauty of our culture is that diversity that we represent based on that uniqueness. And again, that's probably one translation throughout Indian country that some people can accept and utilize it. And when they pray and when they ask for assistance and stuff, that their references to the spiritual energy that throws out a glow that represents that innocence. Is that cool? Or what? Oh man, I just love that. Right on, Tushka. But as we do these things, we understand the importance, of course, right away. We've got to be narcissistic, egotistical males, and I know that we had some requests to include and involve our women, and so And of course, we do this out of, I guess, the convenience that we have throughout our day. And I know that Toshka, he's really a busy man, you know, and so, but yet he takes his time every week to come and support us and help us technically so that we can continue to convey in this, from this IT perspective, this virtual experience. So, but, you know, and I think we need to, Toshka, again, recognize the need of kind of that female influence, and address that, and because we can, of course, we're men, so we think we know everything, and but from a Lakota perspective, you know, we're matriarchal, and so I know that you shared this with me about that, the interest in including somebody, and so, you know, with the understanding of as we remain somewhat dignified and honorable as it relates to representing the integrity of who we are as the people, our females need to understand the importance of that as well. And so, you know, of course, me, I think Alex or Nora or somebody like that can get involved and help us out and provide us with that understanding from their perspective. So maybe that's something we can aspire to, Toshka. And you know, just however that works out, again, just let it take that natural process and present that life and all that good stuff. But again, we need to understand that, you know, there was a guy from Fort Yates, from where Chie Nicheole is from. His name, he goes by Reggie, but he's I think his last name is what is it? Taken Alive, Ray, I think, but yeah. He goes by Reggie. Yeah. But you know, when I was talking about the integrity and the honorability, you know, currently our even our language is being compromised by people that should be stepping up and pushing forward the old the Winok Shalapi now, Wichak Shalapi, and making them go forward. Okay, yeah. And you know, that's where they need to go first for the sake of our future, eh? Instead, some of these non-Indian folks are trying to exploit even our language to make money off it, eh? And they've been selling it, and Reggie brought it up and he spoke highly of it, and how it is that we need to maintain that. We need to step up. And again, like Chie Nicheole, Wuchikya, Kolyapi, Dayai Chanu Chie. But again, we need to understand the importance of that, because through this assimilation, if you really step back and you look at it, we afforded them the right to share with us their way of life. And we accepted it even by speaking their language, and respecting that, because again, what they shared with us, we didn't know that they were trying to force the Indian out of us to bring forward their way of thought, and which was totally alien standards to us. And so that's how prominent or the language is in our way of belief. But they weren't understanding that, but we believed what they were saying to us, because the premise in our language, when we utilize the language, it's there's no sarcasm in the language. It's a language of respect. And I don't think they understood that. And we expected that same standard in the English language, and we didn't realize how dochchingshe it was. What would I say? But you know, like today we should speak, like I know, like Chie Earl could really apply that in a good way about the language, how important it is. And like the stories I shared about my Uncle Shep, he said, if you know even one word, use the language. And that's good, because again, it addresses some of these issues as it relates to our self-identity, and talking about mental health. We're starting to recognize how important. We're not trying to be an Indian. We are Indians. We're trying to be common men. When we say Ekchewi Chashapi in our language, we mean all Indians, not just Indian men, because that represents that thought process, that understanding of who we are as Ekchewi Chashapi is all Indians, men and women, but with this sense of commonality. We're all the same in the Creator's eyes, of this higher power, of the spirituality, the spiritual energies, understanding. We're all the same. And that's what is trying to be conveyed. And more through this virtual experience, we're able to convey that a little bit more openly with an attitude of respect, not to tell them, but to share with them how and why that should be and could be important for our young people to continue this growth. And I shared a little bit of information, Che, with Toshka Elijah here about a warrior, and how some of these characteristics in a contemporary way, we apply those things, especially as athletes, eh? And our Kola Donnie Wetzel, who works for OPI, he created this kind of little strategic plan as it relates to developing some of those characteristics, but address some of those issues and how they affect it. Really a good, nice little read. And he sent it to me, so I sent it to Elijah, Tushka Elijah, and it's really what we've been talking about the whole time. And Donnie thought that was fantastic, that we have, you know, common mind, great minds think alike sort of a thing. But what that shares with me from a spiritual perspective is that there's so many of us that are thinking like that, and we need to kind of come together and help them understand in a spiritual way with this attitude of freedom of spirit that the language is key. It's important to us. But those that have exploited it for the sake of just patronizing the kids in school, yeah, they know the language. No, they don't. And so, and then they get travel money and all this. They go to meetings and I'm this, I'm that. And then they exploit these poor kids and not really trying to convey to them this ideal. Remember, we talked about this ideological paradigm shift. There you go. And that's what we're speaking to, is trying to help our people understand that we need to be respectful. We need to be honorable. We need to continue to walk in a good way for the sake of the integrity of who we are as a people. And you apply that, you do those things by, maybe you, instead of you representing, maybe you need to push an older person, be it a Winukchala na Wichachala, to the front, eh? Tokeia. Naha kiksuya nitakie tokeia takia. The future, those children that we're speaking about. But you know, Che, we need to help us understand without being obtuse or obtrusive or intrusive in their way of life, because many of us have accommodated that influence, what they call forced assimilation, and we speak better English than we do our own way, eh? Like I always say, that's a statement. That's speaking the language, eh? And so I'm going to speak to you in English today because I speak it well. And so that's something they need to understand. And people think that I'm fluent. I'm not fluent. I'm learning words every day. And like Chia Earl kind of shares with us these words and this understanding, this thought process on how we apply those words. And again, the translation into English isn't always the intent of that particular word. And so as we pursue these things, we realize the key thing is the importance of not getting travel money or taking advantage of our kids, but it's to being dignified and honorable in the maintenance of and the sustaining of the integrity of what we represent, whatever tribe it is, the Dakota, Lakota, Nakona, Shahia, whatever the case may be. But always be honorable in your actions. And then when they take advantage of our children, then they laugh at the kids and just push them aside, and they get their money, which is fine. If that's what they want to do, if that's what makes them happy, then go ahead. Because they can always come back to us, and we'll continue to support them in their efforts. And it may take a little bit longer, but we'll do our part as it relates to some of these things. So I think the influence of the female perspective is good. We can always use Alex or Nora or Johnny Lee was a good one. Remember we had her in there? You mentioned that this morning there, Toshka. Johnny Lee was really a good one that was really beneficial to helping us understand that female perspective. So just some thoughts on those things, but I think it's important that I can't take a position on the language, but I know Chie Nichoole could do that. And again, he's fluent in Dakota and Lakota and has some understanding of our Nakona language as well. So what do you think of that, Chie? Does that make sense to you, or am I just kind of talking out of my muze?
Whistling.
You know, there's so many things that I nostalgically always relate to because they taught me many things. And when you mentioned about the need for the Wia Lakota Wia again to step and start. See, they've been doing it for years.
Oh,
I mean,
huh?
You know, they you know, like for instance, you know, when we were growing up, all the men were either off in the service or they were off working someplace. So as infants, we were around the language, feminine gender,
Yeah.
the majority of the really important years of language learning.
Oh,
You know, when we're little, you know, we're hearing it everywhere, you know, like in every word that you can imagine is in the households being used, you know.
yeah.
But it's interesting because our youth today, like today, I was asked how do you say ginger? Ginger, I said, gee, the only ginger I know is that woman that was on Gilligan's Island. And
Oh, they got a red
I
hair.
said,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I said, gee, ginger, I never thought, but they were doing a theme for a door prize, you know, decoration door prize, and they were using gingerbread man.
Oh, huh. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I called different friends of mine and I said, I'll have to go home and look at my words that I don't really, I'll have to look it up, you know. So what are they going to look it up at, you know?
Yeah.
Here's my friend who's world renowned, you know, like a teacher, and then culturally said, I don't know that one.
I don't know.
You
Yeah.
know, but we looked through all the resources that we had, dictionaries and stuff. But my amusement was the fact is that these are challenging, and we have to accept those challenges and do the best that we can. And so they asked me about Christmas. Some said it was Wanikia Ampetu Tumpi, Christmas.
Now, what's that?
And so Wanikia is referring to Christ. You know? So Wanikia, you know. Yeah, Wanikia. You look at some of the hymns that were sung, they, you know, on Christ's word, it's Wanikia.
Oh.
So Waniaka o Ampetu Tumpi is how they refer to Christmas. Well, on the other hand, you know, they say Wania to Wiushkia, a seasonal of happiness, referred to as a way of expressing Christmas.
Merriment, yeah.
Yeah, so I took the time to translate everything else, and then I went into the room. I said, this is a time to inform just what the procedure is in working and translating a language. I mean, a word, you know. So I went into the classroom and I talked to them about it, about Christmas. And a lot of a person, they use the word Wazi, which is Santa Claus, you know.
Oh.
Jolly old St. Nicholas. We just call him Wazi, the man from the north, you know, Wazi.
Yeah.
And so we have different terminology that we're adapting to because we never had that type of customs or traditions around Christmas.
Yeah.
You know? And so making the effort to say, all right, truth be told, you have to explain all this. So that's what I did for them. And a lot of the kids, one kid raised his hand. He said, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, so how do you think we celebrated Christmas way back before, you know, back to our early ancestors? We knew nothing about it. We knew about our creation. That was handed down from generation to generation. And we still have it today. I said, so we never really had these, but in a positive way, I said, we've adapted to
No,
Christmas, celebrating
Yes.
Christmas.
practice
So
it.
we
Yeah.
live in these, we live in these two worlds, I said. And for myself, I said, Christmas, to me, this has always been a hard time for me. We never really had nothing. We only had is a nice meal and the prayers, and to be thankful for what we have. And that was it.
Yeah.
And when we saw all these bright lights and trees and houses, and we say, gee, that really looks nice. But also accepting the fact is that, and we don't have that,
Yeah.
but we have life. We're good.
Oh,
And that's what we were taught by women. I was raised the majority of my life, history-wise, oral history-wise, and life's experiences to my aunt, who basically saved us from going to parochial schools. She took us in. My father suffered a heart attack, drinking too much. My mom was having a hard time and she was drinking too much. Stress of life, was getting to them. And it was difficult and it was hard, but she brought us in because she was in the WAC, she was a Women's Army Corps.
yeah.
And she's very, very well known for the exceptional things that she's done for the tribe. Anyway, so that upbringing was in and around women because having that knowledge or exposure to the language, I was always interested in it. For some reason, I don't understand why this urge to be part of it. But it was kind of an individual, kind of like a keepsake for me of learning words. And I would diagnose them. I would break them down and say, like an animal dead on the road. And I asked my mom, I said, it's all full of maggots and flies on this dead animal alongside the road. And so I'd say, what takwe he chichaye? She said, wana khanka aye. Wana khanka aye. I looked at her and said, hitak chakaba, she said. And she said, wana kigla. She said, it's going back to where it started from.
Yeah.
And so you take waka, and the first thought that came to me is, wa is snow.
Oh,
And ka is something that is old, really old. So it made me think of glaciers, made me think of the ice age, made me think about those kinds of things,
no.
And so it become an entity, And so there's different interpretations, but for me, that's how I memorized the word. Something old and has that connotation of holiness and sacredness you respect, And so
Yeah.
that process for me is the songs and the way we talk to each other and treat each other. And I miss that because nowadays I remember walking into where my in-laws live, and they would actually say things like, "Dayaho," or "Ashte," or he said, "Tok-tok-ha-he." I mean, you'd hear spoken words. Now you see each other, it's just a head shake, the lips,
Yeah.
That's it,
Hello.
That's it. We don't have
Yeah.
time to continue and keep exercising it.
Yeah.
So when I walk down the halls and there's kids walking in, I'd stop and say, "Hey," he said, "Tako an lusna." I said, "Any time, church, hey, pahio,"
Yeah.
They turn around, they look back and say, "Hey, chicken I got you." All right.
I got you. Yeah.
So I practice that anyway. So I'm walking down the line. I'm in a hurry, Some little kid said, "Mr. Bullard," he said, "Taku's not." I turned around and I looked like that, and he looked back and he's smiling. I got you.
Yeah.
So those little things that you practice and exercise every day, you don't think
Yeah.
the kids are earning, they're picking it up.
Oh,
They're
watch
picking it
that.
up. Yeah. So in that process of working with this terminology and stuff, it's really interesting because now I got to research ginger. How the heck you say ginger, right? Anybody knows how to say ginger, let me know, because I looked at all the dictionaries, all of them, online, books. Well, no, I mean, it's interesting. Ginger. I mean, what the heck is ginger? I don't even know what ginger is.
It's a spice.
Yeah, but the flavor of it, I don't know. I don't even can't even remember if I ever tasted a gingerbread.
Yeah.
But they make little cookies out, little men, gingerbread man.
Yeah.
You know, we just ate
Gingerbread
it.
house.
We didn't- all that
Gingerbread
stuff.
house. Ekchewi chashaki. Gingerbread house.
Hey, you shasha while you yeah, okay. Living with the redhead. I could do it.
Yeah, only ginger I know. Hey, Chie,
So in
what,
that
what,
process,
go ahead.
go ahead.
What,
No,
what,
go ahead. You make-
like the Assiniboines, they instead, I was talking one time to Edmund Black Thunder. He's from down Fort Thompson way, eh? And
Mhm.
I was telling him, I said that the Assiniboines where I'm from up here, which I'm part Assiniboine too, is they use the word mitugash. How would you translate that? Mitugashi.
That's my relative, my Tukash, my grandfather.
It's
It's
kind of
just
like that.
It's a term adapted a term. Should be mitongashila.
But they say
Tongash
mitugash.
should be. Yeah,
Tongash.
it's a kinship term.
They changed the
You know?
K to a G, a hard G, eh?
Yeah, they do that a lot. I mean, but
Yeah.
you understand it because
Oh.
you live around it, but it was the words have been shortened for convenience, whatever.
You know, that's
Just
that's why I heard one time they asked me, they said, what do you call the Assiniboine? We said hohe. And then
Yeah.
I heard two definitions. One was because they ate a lot of fish and they're eating fish, but the other one was because they spoke with a hard G, hohe. Their voice was very harsh, and the hard G or the hard B,
What are
eh?
you saying? You're trying to say hore.
Like, yeah,
Hohe.
hohe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Well,
Assiniboine,
my-
how we refer to them, hohe. Yeah, hohe.
In my questions, when I was up there, I'd ask different ones, and what I used to memorize the word is fish traps.
Okay.
Hore, so hoha, you kapapi or something like that. It has to do because they used to make these traps out of willow. They made a circle and they tied them together so
Yeah.
a wide opening, but it narrows down into the middle. So when the fish goes in there, you don't know how to get out. So there's a story behind that too. So I
So
think
what-
I have a tendency to lean that way.
So what
So
about those stonies up there around what do they call
They're
them?
the ones that cook with rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that. I've seen that and done it, so I did it too.
Yeah, he yanked an eye, Galbado. That's what they
Yeah,
are,
well,
eh?
That's a Washicha word, yeah. Yanktani and Ihunk
Ihunk
is what I'm
Tawan.
supposed to say.
He honks
Yeah.
to one, I mean.
Or Ihunk Tawana.
Yeah, that's Assiniboine, right?
She just couldn't say it right, so that's how they say it. Yanked in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Yanktani.
Ihanktoana. That's where they originated from, Galbado. But you see, there's even controversy in the country about that as well, where they evolved from, eh? But that we don't
Oh,
go
yeah.
there because we just respect that whole system, that whole process of. At some point, we'll all come to that understanding. But yeah, there's definitely some diversity represented there from the Lakota and the Dakota, and the separation of the Nakona. Because again, the Nakona refer to themselves as patriarchal, okay?
Mhm.
Where Dakota, Lakota are matriarchal, and which is
Yeah.
how we accepted it, how we deal with it, and how they say they're patriarchal because they follow their father's lineage. We follow our
Yeah.
kind of like our mother's lineage. You think?
Well, they were the backbone, so.
Yeah, but
No,
but see,
once they
that's
accepted
a
that,
part of that difference. Yeah, that's a part of that difference, and people don't know that, and so the words I'm trying to stay with the language here because the words are different, but yet they've evolved into representing the diversity that's there. The base and the foundation is that Sioux or that Dakota way of speaking, because Dakota is the original circle. And then offshoot of that is the Lakota and Lakona and whatever else evolved from that. Even though those Indians from Oklahoma are off the Dakota Tioshpai.
Yeah, all the way down to Texas with the UFO,
Yeah.
Biloxi,
And-
all those,
yeah.
they're all part of the Siouan dialect.
Yeah. And people don't know that. But it's not that we're trying to be better or greater. It's just that's our teachings. That's our understanding of that. And so when we say mitake oasi, that involves that. And then, people don't understand wamakashka oasi. Okay? That's addresses that all of this creation, because we believe everything has a spirit. So like if I go to ceremony, I say mitake oasi,
Right.
which is in reference to the humans, but I also
Wahampi.
say wamakashka oasi,
Soup.
which involves everything that the spiritual entities that are
Entities.
there, because we believe nothing in our way of life is inanimate. It's all animate, eh?
There's
And
something
so that's
bubbly.
again helping our people to understand the importance or the integrity of who we are as a people based on the language itself, eh? Does that make sense, Toshka? Chie?
Oh, yes, that when you go back and you look at all the different interpretations about where we come from and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Down in that corner where you have the Young Tuan and the Young Tuanan and origin down that way,
Mhm.
there's a novelist that was here and was married into that tribe. His name was Belden. And he wrote a book called The Great White Chief. And he talks about interviewing these elderly people, and they talk about this cave or this big emergence from the ground or from Chimaka into Earth's plane. He
Yeah.
said that's located down south someplace. Now they found a whole new complex on a farmland down that way. And they don't know who all was there, so they're researching that. And the other version is us ascending from the Black Hills, Chesapa.
Oh,
Yeah.
wind cave. Yeah.
And so there's always a, how would you call it, indifference, interpretation of origin. It
Yeah.
probably goes back to all nations, all people, but it always comes down to looking at the breakdown or origin of the words. And so when I look at a word, it takes a broad perspective, and I have to think about what is all involved in the word. I really think that the word Tokashila was changed. I think it was supposed to be Toka Waka Ishila.
Oh.
Toka are sacred stones, and that's what we used before the pipe came,
Oh, Hatchetu.
right?
Huh.
And there was a mother and then helpers around the stone, and there's written facts about that. And then Ishi is to request or to ask someone to do something for you.
Uh-huh.
So the Ishila, if I wanted you to do something for it, Ishila Shichinkte. I want you to talk for me, or I want you to do this for me. Ishila. So
Oh,
Ishichila,
yeah.
gonna do it, So the word in itself composes all these, because language always gets broken down,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
people follow it, then in turn pass it on to the next generation.
Remember how Albert
so-
used to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I introduced the same thing when he invited me down there to his class,
Mm-hmm.
and all these speakers in that class,
Yeah.
were getting it for credit. And they all pondered about it, and they said, never thought of it like that. Because we had the Tonkan to look for buffalo or to go through hardships or to deal with prayers and ceremonies and stuff. And then along came the pipe.
Yeah.
So long before that, there were their entities are using their Tonkan. So to me, and it's a hard habit to break, but Tonkan Waka Ishila to me refers to what we interpret as God, that entity. our great
Nope.
spirit, you know.
Remember Charlie White Buffalo? He
So to
teaches
me that-
like Albert used to teach. Remember Charlie, that goofy
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah, we grew up together in Bullhead.
Oh,
We're from the
Yeah.
same village, yeah.
Charlie.
Yeah, him and
Crazy.
his brother, Homer, you know, we all grew up together.
Hasa
Homer, I knew more
Pawichasha.
than,
Yeah.
I
What
knew
about that?
Homer more than I knew Charlie,
Yeah.
you know, but he's part of Hasapan, the other one is part of Washichu, so.
Yeah.
La Cola, Waipikapi, they really talk. You know. So old man said he thought he was losing his mind. He said he heard somebody really arguing Lakota. Oikja. Really.
Boy,
White
wow.
guy, Indian guy, Hasapa guy. Yeah.
Boy, wanka wan bruhe. A question for you, Earl, or
Ah,
Tommy. So since you were talking about that, something I was thinking about was so if before the chanupa, right? If we were talking about the stones, one term I heard was called iashkashkana. Is that something that you've heard of, or is that the same thing, or is that like a
oh
different?
yeah. Oh,
It
that whole
applies,
program
yeah.
of that concept is what got me sober.
Mm.
Daku
Yes.
Wakashkashka.
Dakua,
Something
Makes it all
holy
move.
moving.
Everything
Yeah.
that moves. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a sacredness to it. So Daku Wakashkashka refers to that sacred of life, circle of life, you know. And it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be here, man. They had it on the wall on the mural, and I kept looking at it and said, "What are they talking
Doing my
about?"
podcast. Yeah.
Mm.
So after a while, you know,
Okay.
with
Okay.
all the training and therapy and all we went through, it finally dawned on me. So I know what they're talking about now, because all these characters start fitting into that. I
Yeah.
said, you know, I'm part of that, you know, so I got to accept the fact is that I got to find that current or that stream so I can follow it. And so I started with a song. I made a song.
Yeah.
It's called sobriety song now. People
How-
use it. So Dako Wakashkashka is how I learned it. And then the interpretation goes from there. But yeah, that's what it basically means, that there's something sacred moving, always,
Moving.
constantly.
You know, Toshka, then they use that Dagushkanshka instead of Wakha. They don't put Wakha in there, but they use it in their prayers. Everything that moves, all things that
Yeah.
this entity that moves all things is what they're implying to. But if they use it
But
like
that-
the way Chie,
Yeah.
Dago Wankashkashka, that's that entity itself, the reference to
Yeah. But,
God or creator or whatever. Yeah. but-
yeah, because it could be jello moving, but it's not sacred, is it?
Yeah.
It could
that's-
be
see,
water
that's-
moving.
And I tried to share that with those that speak the language, because they refer to that in their prayer, Dagushkanshka, trying to say, and I said, if you're going to utilize it like that, you should say Daguwankashkashka. You see how the difference is, Toshka? Because again, for whatever reason, they just say Dagushkanshka, but that's just anything that this thing that moves all things. They're implying when they say it like that. But if they're referring to, if they're references to this higher power of the spiritual energy, they should try to apply Dago Wankashkashka. Does that
What
make
about-
sense, Chi? Toshka?
What about like there? I guess another term. I guess the English term I heard for it was like the talking stones. Like I visit some guys, they would pull a little stone out of their pocket when they really talk to. I wasn't sure if that was what was used, right, before. Like some people still use them to just like, you know, talk or whatever, to look for things or whatever. I wasn't sure if that was kind of what you were referring to.
It's usually used for healing purposes,
Mm.
you know, and it's also used for completing dreams.
Mm.
I was given one to my uncle. He was a 3-time Purple Heart in his lifetime, but I didn't know that. He never talked about it. Anyway, he gave me a Tonkamale. He said, he says, "Watonhale, yawochi gakagena," he said. Keep it with you, he said. He says, "You have wochi gakaga." So it was just a round stone. So
Yeah.
I put it in a pouch and I put it in my neck and I wore it all the time. And oftentimes when I'm in question about something doubtful or whatever, I grab it and it would give me that reassurance that I got something sacred, something to depend on. Mishnalashni, I got this higher power that's there. So, and here one day it was gone. This is about after having it for about 3 years. I said, "Oh no, man!" She waganuni, we looked all over the house, man. It swept the house. We looked all over the grounds. Couldn't find it, and the bag was empty. And I said, "How did it get out of there? One of the kids get at that, or did your daughter get at that? And all that stuff." I said, "I gotta get that, gotta find it." And after a while, I started losing that prestige it gave me about having it something to belong to. I was being depended on. And so for 3 years, I kind of nachamad around my uncle. I would hide because I was embarrassed because I lost that sacred stone, And I was standing at the Igby powwow and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and that's where he
It was
lives.
him, yeah.
I turned around, he said, "Tako nachma, old man." He said, "Why are you hiding from me?" He said, I put my head down. Like she, she said, "Where check it out?" I said, "Honey, he said, "That thing came home a long time ago."
That did come back long ago. You just worried all that time for nothing.
Holy smokers, man. I was twice as embarrassed, man. Gee.
Yeah.
But that's how those work. It's an
Oh.
interesting, if you like to read, you go into the Desmore collection and Songs of the Titjuan, they talk about a stone like that down, that was an eagle shield, and Philip Bullhead give testimony to a ceremony that they had when someone stole a pipe bag and a horse bridle. So they call on this man for a ceremony because that was something really, tehila there. It's really, it was dear to them.
Mhm.
And so when they had this
They
ceremony,
loved it.
somebody knocked on the door. Hey, you hump in here, that stone was on the step. And so he took it and they did all the things they needed to do. And
They made the
And
prayer
he
ceremony.
told those people, he said, he said, "Hetakshay agunanike," he said, the Shicha Yukchamna, hey, Chumdash Agalipi, he said, they felt bad, so they brought it back.
Came back, yeah.
He said, they tried to hide it in the river.
Oh.
You know? And so he said, you go out to the wagon, he said, it's a hell egnakam. So those people asked for the sermon, went out there, and sure enough, the pipe bag was all wet and the bridle was all wet.
Mhm.
So they got their articles back through that use of that stone. That's in that, yeah. So those are over 100 some years old now, those stories.
Yeah. You see, Toshka, that's a tukashila, like what he was sharing with us. That's in reference to before the pipe. That's what we utilized. And then I don't know what that word was you said, but and that's how you utilize that. But that talking stone, that's how we utilize that thing. That happened to me one time. I give one of my nieces a stone to, not for protection, but for support or help. It's not for people. They confuse that. It's for protection. It's not. It's like he said, that gives you that prestige or that identity, that is needed of one. When they're having a tough time, they can talk to their stone, like with the word you use, the talking stone. And that's why it's not something to protect you against voodoo or anything. No. It's more of that good representation of that Tunkhashila, something that's old and prehistoric that helps all the time. And so that's the reference that we try to help people understand without telling them. And so we share that in a good way. So is a good term. It's kind of like Tukashila. Is that fair to say, Chie? Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's.
Makes sense,
yeah,
Toshka?
that was,
What was that word you
Tokacha.
used, Toshka?
There was a come up a few different terms that I was listening to this guy talk about. One I thought was Iashkashkana. Yeah, like the little Iashkashkana, the little talking.
Little stones, yeah,
Yeah, little talking, yeah.
little
And
moving stones.
yeah, and so that, but they made it sound like it was almost like this relationship.
Oh,
It
that's
was
it.
like they talk to them, you
It's
talk to them,
animate.
and
Yes,
yeah.
that's the way we believe. It's animate, yeah. Everything has a spirit. Wama kashka. Oh, yeah, see. That's all, everything that the trees, the birds, the insects, the rocks, the earth, it all has a spirit according to our belief system, eh? And then ekchewi chashap is we're all the same. We're all just common people. And that's what we're trying to convey. Because we don't have a doctrine that states we have dominion over animals. We don't think like that. But that's the way they think, that which is fine for them. But for us, in a good way, and Toshka, I'm not telling you this, I'm just sharing it with you because just for the basics understanding of how we go forward, it's that's where we kind of lose because we get insecure about a critical thought process. The creator or this higher power, the spiritual energy, give us each our own mind to be intuitive and to understand the importance of being a human being so we could pursue our purpose and our dedication while we spend time on Unchimaka in preparation of going to that next place and that next dimension, where that energy is. And oh man, it's just it's not human-like. It's more spiritual. It's more free, and that's what they call heaven. What we refer to as Wachatanka, that big spiritual energy that is there, and that's where we're all going to end up. And people have a hard time accepting that because it doesn't apply to their human needs, but it has nothing to do with human time. And time is not of the essence in a spiritual context, but when I was Kachal, Tommy Krishna, I was lives by Indian time. He's always late. They used to raise out with me on the console and get mad at me. I said, well, I'm here. And they didn't get it. And so then they used that against me. You're never here on time. I said, I'm here when I'm supposed to be here. Go ahead, Toshka.
I was just one thing, like when listen to Earl talk about like that stone kind of running away from him. When I first went to Poplar, there was this guy. He's from Cannonball too, but he came over and was sharing some Dakota language with me. So I was really trying to listen to him. But he shared another story with me similar to that, but he had a couple. He would just have them in his pocket, had them for years, and then he said one day they're just gone, and they came back. He really gave them the what for, where'd you guys go? Don't do that to me again.
Yeah.
But he made it sound like they kind of have a mind of their own and they'll just head out sometimes. But it made me kind of laugh the way he described it. So.
Yeah.
I got one other thing to share. Well, it's still here.
Why not? Yeah.
I witnessed a sort of a coming home, and so I was invited. So I went down, and they were talking like this relative, old relative, is returning, and it's going to be in our care. Wachi. So we have to take care of it.
Oh.
And so I'm thinking, I said, what are they talking about? I mean, is it going to be what is, and I'm just curious. I said, what could that be? A spirit or a helper or whatever? And then that's where my mind took off. But when they brought it in, they had 4 guys carrying it. It was a big stone. And top of it was missing. So, but it was still shiny. It had that, what they call it, they had that, you can see that it was just exposed. And they brought it in, and here it was the remains. It was pretty good size. I'd say about 1 foot and about maybe 6 inches wide. But it was a remnants of some kind of skeletal remains of a fish was petrified inside that stone. So, however, that top part broke off. Right, they found it as they prayed over it, and they put it away, you know? And so I then learned, I realized then, I said, there are a lot of things that we still need to experience in our lives. And then we do go through it, then we forget about it until you guys mention, and we're talking, having this subject matter. And then I remember seeing that. I thought that was a good analogy because
Yeah.
I witnessed that. Yeah.
Oh,
So anyway, so my palms of my hands are blue. So that's a good sign.
he's gonna get itchy. His hands are gonna itchy and go try his luck.
Yeah.
Blue. Yeah, I'm starting to get itchy palms here.
Yeah.
Wazia ihunikte.
No.
So now, we were going to do some songs, but we forgot about what it was.
That's all right.
that we
Next
talked
time.
about.
Next time. We'll do that next time.
Ooh, Christmas.
Yeah.
Toshka, before we head out, we should see if we can convince one of those ladies to come on next week, or no, maybe a couple of weeks, right after the first of the year. Just to kind of keep us all in line, because we let our egos
Get our balance back.
get
Yeah.
ahead of us.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
if we could, just every Thursday, have them see if they could make their schedule to make it work for them. So, because I think it's important. That's a definitely a legitimate request. So,
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely extend the
Definitely.
offer. If they can't make it, I'll try doing it a different time. Like I know some of them, work and all this other responsibilities,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll definitely reach out to a few of them and have that good representation of the
Oh,
Wida.
I see.
Ah,
Out. Mama, can we stop?
all right, Medakriapi. Doksta ke, have a great day. Petuashte hapo.
Oh, go, Nija.
Oh, don't try to catch yet.
Yok, Picaro.
You too.
Fort Beck Community College, me too, gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo wata pevi agik tabi ichajia.